Hey everybody, as promised, here's a new episode of Comic Books from My Spinning Rack. I just picked these up at Dave's Comics and Collectibles in Fayetteville, Georgia. He just expanded his store from one store and a strip mall to two. Knocked on the wall. He's putting all kinds of stuff in there. He's got tons of comics, the cheap comics like this in a section. Then he has other ones that are priced. He has, gold and silver age comics. He's got lots of toys. And I'm not just talking Funko Pops type stuff. A lot of stuff. And it's great because I go there and I just pilfer. I come back with like a load of like $1 and $2, $5 comics. And then he has other ones that are like $10, $15, whatever. I just buy what I buy. This Infinity Incorporated was a real curiosity to me because I was never deeply into the JSA. I loved the Invaders when Roy Thomas did it. When Roy Thomas came on the scene, 1965, he worked for a week with Mort Weisinger and left and went with Stan Lee, who gave him an offer because Mort was supposedly he was just crazy to work for. It was just, anyway. What happened was Roy Thomas really wanted to write the JSA. Those were his babies. Those were the comics he was reading growing up. But he spent 15 years with Marvel, and he did a great job. Did Avengers, FF. He did The Invaders, which I loved, but didn't last more than 40 issues, and plus an annual and a giant size. So he got back to DC in 1980 because Jim Shooter would not renew his writer/editor contract. And a writer-editor contract, all it meant was, okay, well, I'm professional enough to do this comic. Don't anybody bother me. Don't bother me. Don't double check me. Don't matter, And what happened was you got a lot of redundancy, and you got a lot of the same terminology. I mean, you had Jerry Conway, Marv Wolfman, Len Wein, Roy as well, except Roy had a little more of a professorial edge to his, where he could use his years of teaching. He was a teacher for a year or two before he went into comics. And others, Archie Goodwin and such, the books sort of had a sameness to them. I mean, they kind of like, example, the Freak, who was the Iron Man's folk, who was Happy Hogan, he got turned into the Freak because of this thing called the Innovator. And, they did that like two more times. In fact, they had the same exact incident happen where Happy Hogan put on Iron Man's suit so he could be at a party while Tony Stark was there. And of course, he got nearly killed by the Freak, and he got cured. There was a lot of that going on. Bill Manilow, he was the only one, I think, who wasn't a writer-editor. I'm not sure. I'm getting way off point. So Shooter, he got rid of that whole, and I applaud that, because if you're a writer, it's good to have an editor give you some feedback, and because there were so many cliches at the time. There was like a hot knife through butter, and there was the prodigal son, and erstwhile, a lot of things, and cliches like to coin a cliche, or I'm from Missouri, show me. So actually 1980 was a fresh time for both DC and Marvel because of this. You had a lot of Marvel people going over to DC, and some of them were reinventing themselves. So finally, Thomas got to play in the Justice Society playground, but he did not start with a Justice Society relaunch or continuation, because it was brought back around the DC explosion, ton of books, between 76 and 78, and then the implosion where they all got canceled for a variety of reasons. So he started the All-Star Squadron. He just decided he kind of cherry-picked some of the JSA and added some new members like Plastic Man, who was never a member. So this came out in 85, I think. 84, March. And this is these are the children and godchildren of the original JSA. Garner Fox came up with the idea of two Earths, one where the JSA is still around. They're older, but they're still vital. And it was first explained in Flash of Two Worlds with Garner Fox, which had the two Flashes meet. So once a year, the old JSA would meet the young JLA. and it was an event every year. So finally, later on, these new characters came along. I think what happened was maybe, I don't know. I think the book just needed the idea needed a kick in the ass, and Roy just said, "Hey, let's just start this new thing that spins off." Oh, Jerry Ordway comes. He was doing All Star Squadron from almost day one. Mike Macklin, excellent inker, he pencils this, and Jerry Ordway inks it. Anything Jerry Ordway inks becomes Jerry Ordway. He's very much like Wally Wood in that way, and he's very inspired by Wally Wood. So, on the inside, this is issue 1. I got lucky. How's that for a splash? See, when I miss the days where they would have tabletop meetings for some of these super groups, like the Avengers did that, and everybody. But now it's just like action, cute, clever phrases that are, that would make, a Marvel MCU movie writer embarrassed. Well, and also, the only other kind of stuff where they'd stop and take it easy is they would do food humor, like, oh, these are yumsies, blah, 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 blah. And it's just not structured the same. And I think a lot of people love the JSA because they're structured. I know it's old and corny, but here we go. Look at that. Perspective, baby. Man. Oh, Manischewitz. Let's say you add 4 new members, like right now, whom blazes? Uh-oh. So some of them are like, I recognize. Now, this is the older JSA, and Wonder Woman has a gray streak in her hair. And this is before Crisis on Infinite Earths, when they had all the Earths combined, and then they undid it and created Earth 2 again with Jeff Johns and others. So there's a bit of a scuffle between the kids and the Spider-Man DC book. I've seen DC characters in Spider-Man books too, so a little tussle. Wonder Woman wraps them up. They can't resist. And they're all getting familiar with each other. The adults are kind of pissed off at what's going on, saying this isn't the way you do it. And look, now that's something only like George Perez can match that kind of stuff. That the postures, the figures, the height, and so they say they're going to think about it, but they give them the boot because they just basically say that wasn't the right way to do it. And later on, well, Origin Time, everybody spills it. Now that's a lot of writing, but it's Origin Time. This being a first issue and all, so. But eventually comes Obsidian and Jade, who are the children of the Golden Age Green Lantern. And what I like about Golden Age Green Lantern, he has that widow's peak. Nice little touch. That kind of little things like that are great. So, good book. Excellent. It's all new for me. So we're going from the excellent to the sheer crap. And it sucks because I like Chris Claremont on certain things. And Jose Ladron, he's excellent. Unfortunate Kirby Crackle interrupts his credit right there, which is absurd. What can I say? Jose Ladron, for a couple of years, he was doing Cable, the Rob Liefeld creation, and for years Cable was drawn in the Liefeld clone style, and then this Kirby clone, this really sloppy Kirby clone, who started off just like Barry Windsor Smith did in his first issue of X-Men back in, I don't know, 66 or something, 67. And then he evolved in 2-3 years to be this incredible, masterful artist who had the Kirby, but he had enough of himself that it wasn't a swipe. I mean, it was just amazing. It was like a touchstone for him to get really, really good at stuff. And later on, also, a little bit of Mobius kind of feel to it. He did this with a 4-issue series of the Inhumans. He did this with other stuff. And Thor 2000 annual, a year later, he makes a quantum leap that's so spectacular that just really raised my eyes. And It was just weird him having a Kirby clone at this time when they were trying to shake off, like, oh, the old school stuff that the grown-ups, or the older people like. I love that face. That's a total unique face. Beautiful. Beautiful. Got that cosmic crackle. Got that Kirby crackle in the morning. Only problem is Chris Claremont, he's known to overwrite. That's fine. I mean, I read his stuff all through the 80s. But it's kind of ill-fitting for this kind of story because there is so much crammed in here. It's a double-size issue, and there's still not enough room. That a lot of the panels are, I mean, some are even postage stamp size, and some are post-it note size. I love that wiring. It reminds me of 1986 when they were reworking on Statue of Liberty, and they had all this scaffolding around it. But, that's just what it puts me in mind of. So, but I mean, there's still weird things like that's kind of a weird relation figure-wise. See, and here, all this stuff here. Although maybe Jose was taken aback by so much copy that he probably could have condensed a lot of these panels into like 3 panels. So, but he learned quick. He was. How about that badass? Man, he would fit in with the New Gods so easily. Mecha Mage. That's a new perfume line I'll be coming out with soon. Mecha Mage. So, woo wee yow, oofda. I don't know. That's something that in production, I wouldn't touch the original art, but in production with the computers, I would blow up the figure or reduce the head and add little connecting lines there. But yeah, that's kind of awkward. So you got yada 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 yada. These tiny panels, it's absurd. So at the end of the day, I think I like the creators. I just think they were a horrible match for each other in this book, and it shows. Now, on to the Avengers. I picked this out of the blue. I hated this book when it came out. Like, you had issue 200, which had the horrible Ms. Marvel ending. Then you had 2 issues of Ultron, which were kind of quickie. It's hard to explain. Then you had this. You had a couple of fill-ins for a while. It was kind of aimless. Gene Colan came on for a while with Bill Manilow, but I love the Beast. I love Wonder Man. They'd been hanging out for a few years in Avengers, but this was their first, I think, solo outing together. They fight these beasts under these alien-looking things underwater. I love these designs, and it's by my pal Carmen Infantino. Actually, he's not a pal, but if you follow my episodes, you know that I've been unfair to Carmen Infantino in the past because I wasn't a DC Silver Age guy. I thought his stuff was too polite. Then by the time he went to Marvel, when he was replaced by Jeanette Kahn as the DC publisher in '77, he went over to Marvel, and a lot of the stuff just, to me, wasn't working. I think it took him a while to really get into the swing of things. By the time he did, he got back to doing a Flash for a few years before Flash died. David McElhaney's been the writer for a while. And, like this kind of stuff just kind of is a turn off. But here's where it gets good. Beast and Wonder Man are lost. They're just walking around. They came out of a, Wonder Man says, that's just great. First I bombed at the legitimate stage, and now I've been fired from my TV job on the Uncle Elmer show. What else could go wrong? Well, for starts, we could be lost. Which, come to think of it, we are. That's whiteout being applied there. And I love that kind of effect. Oh my gosh. And really, Infantino, this is... Some stories with Infantino in this period are tailor-made for him, and some are not. But I love the way it's handled here. I love the simple colors. I love the kids in the front, all red, I like that because that goes back to the Silver Age of Marvel, where they would use red as building suspense. Because red's such a hot emotion color. So these street thugs are attacking Beast and Wonder Man, and they're wondering what the hell's going on, and they're talking about these swamp creatures. They finally realize they're Avengers because they're not the most famous ones. And how about that? That is sweet. I love it. I love it. Such crazy effects. So this girl's trying to explain to the Avengers that it's her brother that's missing, and the mother's abusive. She's saying, "What are you doing away? You need to come back home." So all this smoke comes along, and not smoke, like fog. And they end up in the tunnels below, which is where they were told the brother was. And I love the design of these creatures. Here comes the younger brother. He's like, they are my friends. I enjoy their company because he doesn't say it. His mom's abusive, and he's just not. He's just very unhappy. So he's down here and made these friends. And what happened was, very Ninja Turtles. Some guy spills chemical into the water system and mixes up in the what do you call that thing? Where the turtles came from? Underwater, and the tunnel, like sewers. But the thing is, these guys didn't think of it first. The turtles didn't think of it first. It's been around for a long time, and the fact of the matter is, turtles did the most with it. I mean, Beastman and Lair really went beyond just them being weirdos. So I love the designs. This is so weird for Infantino. I just love these characters. I like the way the Dan Green's inking the rocks there. He's doing a lot of loose stuff. Here are the guys who attacked Beast and Wonder Man early on because they thought they were part of this group here. Well, what happens is they get savagely attacked in return. So everybody bails. And the boy comes home. His mother smacks him. And man, oh man. How about that? Those drop-offs. These thin outlines, and the color just sits right in there. So you get these, street punks again who don't like the monsters. They just are disgusted by them, and they're going to blow them up. And here comes the explosions. And our friends my friends, they're burning. And there's an explosion that lets all this water out into the out into the river, and he fades away, never to be seen again. Not fades away, he drowns, that we know of. It's never been followed up on 45 years later. Beast and Wonder Man report the incident to the police. They don't know anything about it, so it's like this really weird dream. And they're like, let's get the hell out of here. And then at the end, the Wasp and Hawkeye are just hanging out. I see these two out cold. Yeah. We saved the world, and they act like it was them who had the great adventure. Yeah, I guess some people just don't know when they got it easy. So, really wonderful. Now, we're getting into anthology versus anthology. Picked this up the other day. Action Comics Weekly. It has its fans and it has its detractors. The hard thing was it's double sized and it's $1.50, which was twice what the retail of a regular comic was. And anthologies, the only time probably in the last 60 years that anthology has been successful was Alan Moore's America's Best Comics. And it's also because he wrote them all too, and then he had the very top talent. Now there's a mix of talent in here, and I think they're all great, but a lot of them are unknowns. And this cover here, it's not Neil Adams, but I would bet it was Tom Grinberg who was doing a lot of Neil Adams type stuff at the time. And starting off with beautiful Mark Bright art. James Owsley is Christopher Priest. So it starts off really, really fantastic. So no, that's not Earth 2 Green Lantern just letting himself go with too many pork chops. Then you have the Phantom Stranger. And it's weird to see him without his hat, though. But the art's nice. And it's done by some guy named Fred Cariello. I don't think he's relation to Sergio Cariello, because I know Sergio well, and he's never mentioned a brother. Paul Kupperberg writing. Black Canary is really cool. Sharon Wright, I've never heard of her before, but it's always interesting to see a woman writing another woman character. Randy DeBurke is the penciler, Pablo Marcos anchor, and I love the results. To me, it's a cross between Dave McKean and Bill Sienkiewicz. And what I love also is Black Canary's hair is very Peter Max, very simple, just a couple of lines, and the rest, just looks all gritty. It's got the exaggerated figures, and there's her hair again, where it's just simple with a couple of colors. And it's a great contrast. Let's see. Okay, in the middle is a 2-page spread. It is a weekly part of a story. Give me a second, would you? Come on, focus, everybody. It's done like a newspaper Sunday strip. Now, for those too young to remember newspapers, they would have adventure stories, but usually by the time I was reading, they were mostly humor. They would have these little strips going down like Calvin and Hobbes. You'd have something else, but then on the Sundays they would have big features. And this is written by Roger Stern, but it's done by the legendary team of Kurt Swan and Murphy Anderson. But it's only the spread, and there was a lot of complaints on Letters page, like only that for the Man of Steel. So Sherry Wilkinson, another female, I assume, and Vince Giorano, who did one of my favorite short-lived series called Haywire, which was written by, oh gosh, I can't think of his name, Michael Fleischer. My only thing that bugs me is it seems like he really didn't want to draw Nightwing or Speedy, because they're almost like always out of panel. It's just there's some great stuff going on, but it doesn't feel like a Speedy Nightwing story. It just seems like a street crime story that involves those two. Ian Gibson, oh man, he's one of those 2000 AD Brit artists that's fantastic, but he never made it big over in the States for some reason. His stuff is uniquely his, and I love the way he does pouty faces on women. That's just really clever. Now we got Martin Pasco, Rick Burkett on Blackhawk. So you get all this you get all this experimental art in between two traditional artists like Mark Bright and Rick Burkett. Good stuff. Really, really good stuff. And now we go to Marvel Comics Presents. Dave Cockrum cover. And I saw this guy, my man, and I had to check it out. And they put all the credits at the front, which is great. This is drawn by Dave Ross, and it's inked by Dan Day, who is one of the Day brothers. Gene Day was huge on Master of Kung Fu, and then he moved over to DC to do some stuff, but he died very young, in his early 30s. But Dan Day and David Day, they did stuff. They did stuff for the indies. They did some stuff for some of the mainstream books, but I think they were still a little rough, but they learned so much from their brother. And I love this combination. It's some of my favorite stuff by Dave Ross. Got the Hulk versus Wolverine, and he's drawn, that's the gray Mr. Fix-It, like just evil looking, like misshapen head, that kind of stuff. I love the blue. They keep the palette, shades of blue. See, you got that, old Kirby lip going. and you go into Werewolf by Night. This is great too because it is not the traditional Jack Russell character from the superhero type comic in the early to mid 70s. It is the Bill Sienkiewicz style that came out around Moon Knight number 29, I think. Bill Sienkiewicz redesigned him. Let me see. Who did this? Oh, actually, James Fry, which is interesting because Brad Joyce seems to cover up Fry's stuff a lot. And I think it's a good match. There you go. You got the Submariner. Looking great. Looking really good. A lot of stuff going on. And that is done by Mike Collins and Mark Farmer, the legendary Mark Farmer. So now we get to what I wanted to buy this book for. Iron Man. Whew. The original Iron Man. The old water heater with a miniskirt Iron Man. That's my Iron Man. Well, I like the other one from the rest of the Silver Age, but you know. And Chris Ivey inks it. And let me tell you, you know what I hate about it? That I didn't get to ink it. He does a beautiful job on it, and I'm sick with jealousy. I in the pit of my stomach, I am so sick with jealousy because you get Ditko does some throwbacks to the Silver Age. Look at that. That could have easily been in like a Tales of Suspense issue 40, I don't know, 2 or 3 or something. And Ditko basically does breakdowns. He does the story. He doesn't do the script, he does the story. And the faces are not quite Ditko, but that's because Ditko kind of left the faces up to the inker. And, but man, oh man, oh man. So much fun. Oy, oy, oy. I'm jealous. And takes him out. So, now I'm curious what you all think about these 2 anthology books. And, I mean, you may be a DC fan or a Marvel fan or both. Let me think what you think of the 2 formats and which do you think. This lasted a long time. It was a bi-weekly. This was a weekly, though. This is really more of a chance you want double-sized. This was ad-free, 32 pages. This was 48 pages with ads. Let me know what you liked. Tell me about the other books. If you know something I don't know, please add your comments. I welcome them because I consider this in my other channel kind of like me and all of you just kind of hanging out and talking about comics, just having fun and sharing opinions. I don't do a lot of Wikipedia because I like my channel to be interactive. I've gotten to know a lot of you guys and gals, from this from my shows, and thank you for your time. I always say this. This is almost a half hour, and you've chosen my channel out of the billions of them on YouTube, and I never take that for granted. So thanks for everything, and I'll be around soon now that I'm feeling better. Huzzah! Talk to you later. Bye.